Hey y'all, it's me again. Getting ready to make another batch of wonderful soap. I'm really enjoying creating this new line of aloe vera soap. This one I'm about to make is a strawberry patchouli scented. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm kind of going back and forth between original scents or scents that I'm currently offering or was currently offering, and then adding a new scent. So far I've done 2 new scents, right? Yeah, 2 new scents and 2 old scents. You want to say old. So far I have done the amber luxury, and then after that I did orange patchouli, and then I did the ocean breeze, and then I did the one that I made up, which I think I decided to call it luxurious lavender vanilla. It's something like that. That's the one that I just made in the last video, but it had lavender, vanilla, and then a little tobacco caramel sprinkled in. I just want y'all to know that I gave it a whiff earlier. It smells incredible. I cannot wait to test it out. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about strawberry patchouli, which is actually one of my favorite scents. Cute little story behind that. I used to make soap for a brewery, and I would do the soaps and the fragrances based on the type of beer that they gave me to put in the soap. And so they gave me a soap that was based on strawberry. So I decided, I wanted to go with strawberry scent, but I wanted to have an earthy flavor or a note or whatever we're calling that to it, since it was also a beer soap. And so I mixed strawberry patchouli. I fell in love. I added it to my own line, and here we are. So I'm going to make my own strawberry patchouli soap now with the with aloe vera instead of water or beer. Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, let's get into making this soap. I said I was going to stop doing voiceovers in the morning, and I lied. Anyway, so here I am pouring my aloe vera juice, and now I am adding sugar to it. And then next I am adding sodium lactate, which is pretty much just like liquid salt. The both of those I like to stir in and dissolve before I add anything else. And the reason I add them is, 1, it helps to keep the soap fluid, and 2, it also increases lather and the hardness of the bar. So here I am, oh my god, mouth, measuring out my lye. And next I'm going to combine the two. Whenever you combine your liquid with your lye, you should always pour the lye into the liquid, never the other way around. And so moving on with that, I am going to completely stir that in. I like to stir it until it looks less milky. It won't go all the way clear because it isn't water. So once I get that thoroughly incorporated to my liking, then I go ahead and add it to my heated oils. I like to do this when they're both around 200 degrees, but no less than 180. I have found that less than 180 just causes problems for me. So now that I've gotten those combined, I'm going to stick blend to trace. Usually I like it to resemble somewhat of a pudding consistency, a rather viscous consistency, if you will, where it definitely looks kind of thick when you pull the stick blender out, and you can just kind of tell by the way the fluid moves when I move the stick blender in and pull it out. And so that's the consistency that I'm going for. Sometimes I stick blend a little past that because I'm a person of excess and don't know how to control myself. And so then after I get it there, I scrape off the stick blender, put the top on, let it cook itself, which is so cool to me because there is no heat element. So as you can see, maybe you can or not, it was volcanoing. Now I can't let it go too high. I tried to let it go a little higher this time so y'all could admire it, and now I'm in a bind. So here I am just trying to struggle this stuff back into this pot because it absolutely will lava right out of there. I mean, just all over the sides. Nobody wants that. So I fought it and beat it back into submission, just as I know I can. And often too, though I have been finding some ways around that. Anywho, get that all the way back in the pot where it belongs, okay? And then once I get that all the way down in there with all of the elbow grease that I can muster, I usually like to take like my spatula and just kind of scoop that soap back in there, waste not, want not, okay? And also I don't want it to make a mess all over the pot and the lid. So now that I've gotten that nice and cleaned up again, I can go ahead and move on with my life. So I'm gonna put the top back on, and then I'm gonna start measuring stuff out. So here I'm gonna bring out my tiny scale because it's more accurate. and it can measure out smaller amounts of grams than the big scale. And I've got some olive oil that I reserved from my recipe, because that's how I like to combine or mix whatever my colorants. Get caught up in semantics here. So I'm just going to add my colorants. That one is called Spicy Tomato from Mad Micah's. I'm really entertained by the names of their colorants. And also, they have just brilliant, beautiful colors, especially in soap, because some colors go a little wonky in soap. So they have specific micas that are absolutely made and tested for soap. So this one actually is like Granny Smith apple or something from Wholesale Supplies Plus. And so just stirring that and giving that a good mix in with the oil. And then the next one is going to be titanium dioxide, and it's just the best white, and it just makes a strong, very vibrant, bold, whatever white. And I hate it because it's messy, but it makes a great white. And then how many times am I going to say that, repeating myself much? Anyway, the black is activated charcoal because I feel like it makes the best black. Also messy, but we gotta do what we gotta do, y'all. Okay, so anywho, now the soap has been sitting there undisturbed long enough, and so me being the nosy and messy person I'm gonna go ahead and stir up some trouble. So I'm gonna just take my whisk. I prefer a whisk, but you could use a spatula, whatever you feel like, and just stir it up, get it nice and incorporated and mixed up again. And it was looking a little applesaucy, but this is where I get impatient and start stirring it to completion. So now it's starting to look a little mashed potato-y. And then the final step is Vaseline. Okay, no one adds those E's at the end but me, but I'm entertained by it, so that's what we're doing. So the Vaseline stage is the final stage that we're looking for. It just looks kind of shiny and sort of kind of opaque, not opaque-ish, a little translucent-ish. Okay, and so that's what we're looking for in the final soap. It also should be very fluid. If it's not fluid enough, sometimes I will add extra liquid until it's fluid enough. So here I'm measuring out my full fat Greek yogurt. You do not need full fat or Greek, but you want it to be yogurt and plain. For goodness sake, you want it plain. So this also just helps to keep the soap or make it very fluid. And also yogurt is good in like everything, right? Pretty much. Okay, so I just add what I measured out, and then I take my trusty whisk and stir it until it's fully incorporated into my soap. That's right. So once I get that all done, I go on to my next step, which is usually measuring the, why can't I think of words right now in the middle of a voiceover, so sorry. The fragrance oil, that's what I'm doing. That's right, measuring the fragrance oil. So I'm going in with the strawberry and then a touch of patchouli, because I'm gonna tell you a little bit of patchouli goes a long way with essential oils. Okay, so giving that a nice stir, that it's a nice cohesive mixture and will blend evenly into the soap when I throw it off in there, because it's just unceremoniously just dumped in there. That's what I do, nothing pretty or fancy. And then I take my whisk and I mix for, I don't know, at least a minute, maybe a little longer. I find that I need to mix it and thoroughly incorporate it, or I find that I end up with like fragrance oil at the bottom of the pot when I start pouring it all out, mouth come on, which I find really annoying. Maybe equally as annoying as my malfunctioning mouth. So anyway, now I'm going to separate the soap. I measure out how much soap I want to combine with how much colorant, and so that's what I'm doing now. I'm just weighing out the soap in individual containers so that I can combine my colorants. What is wrong this morning? It ain't that early. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna get all of those poured out. I did 4 colorants. I'm lazy even as a soaper, because I feel like the simpler something is, typically that makes it easier and less problematic, less likely to make mistakes. But sometimes you just got to be extra. So here, red is going to be my largest amount of soap, my largest color for the soap. So I threw that in there, and I'm just giving it a nice thorough stir. Even though it's not like that paste consistency of the original hot process, it's still thicker than cold process. So I make sure I give it a very thorough stir, not so aggressive that you don't want to knock it out your container, but you definitely want to make sure it's thoroughly incorporated so you don't have uncolored splotches in the soap. That really just messes with my OCD. I'm not a fan. So anyway, I'm just going along and mixing this all up. And I think I have one more color. Get that green, and the green is really pretty. They're all really pretty actually. And so get those finally in there, just elbow grease it in. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm random all the time. I don't know if you've seen any other videos, but this is me all the time, trying to tell you that that's who I am. So I'm going to just plop my molds up here. These are my silicone molds that are just in their holders, and I just love them because it makes the soap so much easier to demold. So I like to layer my colors in a contrasting kind of order, if you will. So I like to place colors next to each other that will just really stand out, because in my mind, I feel like it makes for a better swirling and a better outcome. But don't quote me on nothing. That's just my process, and I don't like to change things once I get my mind made up. So here we are. So I'm just layering those colors in. I try to be as neat as possible, but it doesn't always work that way. It may end up, on my gloves, whatever. But I try to do my best, guys. I try not to be as messy as I've been. Pray for me. Okay. So I usually just like to kind of bang them down on the top of the table, just to make sure that the soap is just like fully, situated and seated into the mold, so there are like not any air pockets, which would leave kind of weird spaces in the final product. It does happen. So now that I've got those all the way poured, I like to take my hanger, my actual hanger, instead of my hanger tool, and I slide it all the way to the bottom, which sometimes is a little difficult, but we're gonna make it. And then I just kind of do some figure eights, and I don't do too many, because I feel like it just kind of makes it start to look muddled and messy and not as pretty if I do too many. Just a couple times, and then I move on to the next one. And then once I get everything situated in the mold, I take my wonderful glitter pixie dust and sprinkle it all across the top. And then I swirl the tops. I felt like this works better than adding the glitter after I swirl, because I feel like it kind of incorporates it into the soap a little better, instead of just sitting on the top and floating everywhere. So anyway, that in my mind, all this happens in my mind. It's a scary place, don't go there. Anyway, so yeah, all this happens in my mind. That's how I feel about it. So the soap is done here at this point. What a pretty view. I put it in the freezer for about 5 or 6 hours. I take it out and demold, and this is why I absolutely love my silicone molds, is because before I used to use like hard plastic ones, and I had to fill them with like parchment paper, or line them with parchment paper, and that was just the biggest pain ever in the entire universe. And then trying to get the soap off there. Now I just yank it out of the mold, like bam, done. Look at that, finished. Okay, now time for the cut. So when I cut, I kind of pull the rest of the log away from the bar so that they don't like smear and smudge against each other. That's pretty, right? Okay. And then I scoot it over. Well, first I rub off the wire, and then I scoot it over. I rub off the wire to make sure that the residue from the first cut doesn't drag all the way through the next cut. And then I separate it again. This is a very ginger process, okay? Very, very temperamental and sensitive. I just want to make sure the soaps can be as pretty as possible. So these are just a few pieces that I really like from the cut. Very fancy. Okay, are we still saying demure? All right, anyway. Here are the little shards or whatever crumbles that I had left over from the cut and the demolding, and I've just been using them recently to show off the lather, because usually soap gets better and finer and all that as it ages. And so this has been less than 24 hours, and this lather is already delectable and delicious. And so it's very creamy and lotion like. I really enjoy it. And so this is just to kind of show that off a bit. I won't do it in every single video, but I've been kind of just showing it off here just because it's been a fun little addition to the videos. But yeah, here we are. My hands are nice and wonderfully clean, and another batch of soap completed. So I hope you like what you saw. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. All right, I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.